you have made your graphic novels, and I always see you there on Twitch as Your Face is Pretty, of course. Love that. Like, it's still one of the nicest names on Twitch that I've seen is Your Face is Pretty. So good. So good.
Got teased for it yesterday. I was so shocked. I was like, you are the first chat who's ever had a problem with this.
People didn't like it? You mean like
They were
actually
like,
teased or is
oh,
joking?
she's a creepy stalker. I'm like, you think I chose this username to raid just this guy? Like, what are you talking about? I don't.
Oh, I see. Because it
Why
was
you
it because
gotta
of your
make it
raid?
weird? Like, yeah, it was real weird.
Well, I think that's the thing though with Twitch or social media in general. Can you really take a lot of what people say seriously? Sometimes, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like everyone's gonna interpret things the way they want to, and it's just gonna be the way it is. I think we have
it's
no
true.
control over it.
It's true. I
Yeah.
found the outliers who are gonna react to it in a weird way.
That's true because honestly, that is the nicest name. Your Face is Pretty is always complimentary.
You're gonna have to work. You're gonna have to be a particularly egregiously bad chat to get
Yeah.
that one wrong. Yeah,
I think so. I think so. That's crazy. So, okay, of course, graphic novel, right?
that's
This is
right.
the graphic novel We Are No One.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome graphic novel. Awesome artwork.
Thank you.
Awesomely huge amount of effort. I've noticed
Enormously so.
you work so much on this. So,
Ah.
like, I know about it obviously. We've talked before, but I want to know more about it. And I actually have a bit of a plan to talk a bit more about some of the, not the details of the story, but the details of your premise and reasoning. Like if we go on your site and you say this is why I did this,
Yeah.
I want to talk about some of those learnings that you talk about. So I'll ask you right now, just like, tell me about it. Tell me about We Are No One, so that talk to me like I'm a 4-year-old. No, no, I'm just saying. Just tell me about it.
Uh, boy, you almost had me going there for a second. I do have the talk to me like I'm a 4-year-old pitch, but it gives away so many secrets
Don't give away the
because
secrets.
yeah, yeah. So I finally figured that out. I should have had that from the very beginning, but kind of recently I was put in a situation where somebody with hard of hearing was like, "Tell me what your script is," and I was like, "Okay, this has got to be the most plain talking pitch, but we're not going to do that one because that's just like here is literally what is happening. There is no subtext." And
Gotcha. Well, we don't have to do that. No, but I no,
okay,
I was just
here's with
like
subtext.
I got off on a line of some for some reason. I was like, I'm still talking and I feel like I shouldn't be talking, but I'm gonna keep talking. And that's what happened with that question.
Yeah, no, I feel that. That's how I get to be a streamer. Yeah. So the book is a serial killer of serial killers who has been asked by the government to do some legit work, which is to take out this guy who has apparently done some bad stuff to the government. But she's a little anti-authoritarian and doesn't really like working with people, and so she doesn't really believe them. And she's like, "Well, prove it." And they're like, "Well, why don't you just like do it, and then we'll talk because we're the government, and you should just do it." So she meets this guy, and he's basically a conspiracy theorist who's been caught in his own dang conspiracy. And they end up being friends instead of doing a murder, and then they take out mines from a big field. My pitch always sounds so weird.
No, well, I mean, this is the thing. This is why it's like it's an epic kind of story, and it goes on for a while. There's a saga. I would call it a saga to some degree.
A 6 month saga. They have a tiny saga.
So I want to get into that, but yeah, I also realized one of the reasons why I was like, oh, I have to talk to Kathryn right now, is
Yeah,
because you illustrate this story in real time on Twitch. Your Face is
yeah.
Pretty is the channel, amazing
Hmm.
channel. Everybody follow channel. But you do this. It's a great time, and we look at your hands while you draw, and you have this amazing artwork. And recently on Twitch, you where your account was struck down, I believe,
It
for a day or two.
was.
You got a strike.
It was wild. I didn't get a strike for it ultimately,
Hmm.
but they did pull me down in the middle of the stream. Honestly, quite embarrassingly. I didn't like that very much. It's a little
Ooh.
bit insulting.
It was
Uh,
midstream you got
it
cut
was
down?
midstream.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. So now I was drawing the shower scenes. This is not a children's book, and it's not an adult book per se, but there's nudity in it because there are humans who get naked, and that's a thing I have to draw. And after like a year of putting off this scene because Twitch doesn't allow artistic nudity, I was like, well, I have to do it. So I had everything covered up, but I assumed that they had a problem with the concept of nudity anyway. And
Hmm.
so that was why. So I wrote them and I was like, hey, I tried to follow your rules. I swear I'm definitely not shit talking your rules behind your back because they're inane and outdated. But please don't look earlier where I was doing that. Um and they wrote back and they were like, no, that's not why we took down your account. We took down your account because you have broken an egregious rule which is unforgivable and it demands that your account be destroyed forever. That's not the language they use. I don't think the lawyers would like that.
It was
You
close.
had to be taken down because you are under the age of 13. Uh,
You're not allowed to draw what you were drawing under the age of 13 on
you're
Twitch.
apparently not allowed to stream at all on Twitch, which is huge news to me as a 10-year-old.
Yeah, it's true. You were a lot younger than I thought.
I
After
know, me
this
too.
new information came out about how you are under 12 years old, and so that's crazy.
Yeah, so I started this comic when I was 3. I really just decided to like get going on
Prodigy.
that. Yeah. Anyway, it got reinstated because I'm not under 13. I'm
That's
35.
crazy. I do wonder if this. Yeah. Okay. Well, obviously, you were not under 13, and it worked
They
out.
have my tax information.
Well,
Like they pay me every month. How could they possibly have thought?
it's kind of impossible. It's strange, if anything. Like
Yeah.
I obviously like Twitch. I've had a great time on Twitch. I've had so much fun, met so many cool people. It's a great platform, but some of those things are a little strange. Like this particular situation to me was like, okay, they have your bank information. They can't pay you. It's a direct deposit sort of situation most of the time with Twitch, I think.
Yeah.
And they have your tax information like you said.
Mm-hmm.
They know what your age is. They know your identification. They have all of it.
Yeah.
So how is that a possible mistake? You happen
I
to be
know.
drawing this scene that has a kind of nudity, but you were saying you were covering everybody up.
Yeah. And they didn't care about that. They didn't say a word about that. They
Oh my god.
reinstated my account, and I found that kind of affirming. And I was like, all right, I am following the rules.
But you got cut right in the middle
I did
of a
during a
stream.
BRB screen. I wasn't even there.
Whoa. Okay. I mean, wow. I wonder, and obviously there's not going to be any explanation of why that
No, they
happened
wouldn't.
other than you're 12.
And they
And
did say they made a mistake, and they did apologize.
yeah, they're like, hey,
I thought
look,
that was very big of them.
sorry, we know you're 13 and a half. So please.
Only a 13-year-old, 13 and a half year old could draw butts like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But that kind of leads me to something because I I don't know any artists. Like I know a few artists, and I don't know any of them who haven't done any life drawing classes or courses, which is where you've got
Mm-hmm.
a nude subject, and that way
Yeah.
you learn to draw human bodies because you can't really draw them properly without having done some
You
of
have
this.
to.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on art and nudity and whatnot. The rules that are instigated that look, they said it was because you were too young. That doesn't. I'm not saying it's a total lie or anything, but it does seem weird that your stream where you're drawing some level of nudity is cut down midstream for what's seemingly an impossible to make mistake. I'm wondering if it had something to do with the nudity, and I'm kind of wondering what are your thoughts on nudity and art in general. Is there what's your take on all of this?
My take on the banning is like I think it's as likely to be something to do with the nudity as it is something to do with their automation system that they're using to shore up their honestly egregiously poorly trained moderators. No offense, moderators. I don't think you're getting the support that you need, or the like. I don't know. You're not getting something because you're not doing your job, and I'm sure you all know fellow moderators who shouldn't be there. I was trying to be kind, and then at the end there, I was
it still kind of went hard, but that's okay. You don't have to. This is the Ragged World. This is the Ragged World podcast. Yeah. So we're like,
I didn't mean to go so hard, but
we can go harder than ever before because we are not going to get cut down in the middle of the stream for being 12.
That's right. We're here on YouTube.
Yeah. I might be 11 and a half, but I am allowed to go hard on this. And so
your room is so clean.
Oh yeah, this is like for an 11 and a half year old, you mean?
Wow, I'm so impressed. I only clean mine once a month, so
this is a whole new I'm switching to this is a whole new vibe. I tore everything out and then I painted the wall. This is actually dark green. It looks kind of black in this lighting. Changed the lighting, redid everything so that it's cleaner. The fish tank is viable. You can kind of see the rocks in the background. So that's it. You couldn't tell before. The fish tank. The weights, I try to keep them blurry to the side, but they're there. This is a gym. Yeah, that's it. And so I don't have a good plan for things to put on either side or above. I was like, could I, it's green. Could I put branches there? What am I going to do? I'm like, I'm leaving it clean until I figure something out that makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, this is brand new. This is the second season of Ragged World podcast after like a year of people waiting for this to come back. So yeah, and like we've got so many cool guests and you are one of them. So thank you for mentioning the room and allowing me to go off on a tirade about it.
No, I didn't get to catch up before we started, so it's good.
No, well, we're catching up now too. You know, like that's part of this is like, hey, I want to talk to people.
Yeah.
Honestly, the goal here is to I know some people have podcasts where they're trying to be informative. I don't think I am going to be that kind of guy. I don't think I have the level of intellect or education, or I'm not some theologian or philosopher or something where or PhD that's going to come and give you some kind of information. My guests are great, but I think it's more about conversation. And just having a conversation with somebody, listening to what they said, maybe answering a question or following up with a question about something they said, and I'm trying to go in another right other than kind of gotcha stuff or sensationalism. Just fun. Although I did come right off the top like Twitch banning your face is pretty for nudity. Twitch are prudes.
It's crazy stuff.
So I did kind of do that. But I was super interested in it. And I thought like, okay, so again, I was like, nudity. We were talking about nudity. Let's get on track. Yeah. Thank you, Kathryn, for keeping this podcast on the rails. What about nudity? How do you feel about genitals?
Well, it really depends, doesn't it? So I think that I think it's confounding that there are anti-nudity rules on creative platforms. I'm very confused by it. The argument is, what about the children? And I think that I have just as much of a right to say that children should know what naked people look like as they have a right to say that they shouldn't. I don't feel like that's a finished conversation, and I don't understand why a certain segment of the population gets to censor me. I mean, I don't want to be a part of that conversation because that's a part of Reddit I don't want to visit, but like, it is kind of bad, and I think that's appalling, and not just for me. I think that's probably very bad for our culture as a whole to not be able to view ourselves the way we are. I think it's dishonest and old-fashioned, and I think probably the people who enforce the rules don't even really want to be doing that. I think there's a lot of pressure financially and socially to keep doing this weird thing that we do. And the wildest thing to me is that, like, okay, two wild things. One, if it's in a video game on Twitch, it's okay. if this nudity is made by a big enough corporation, it's fine again. You can play The Witcher on Twitch. But I can't draw a little cartoon of a butt. That's not okay. And two, I'm publishing this book on Amazon. They print this for me. They have it on my site. They know what it is. They're okay with it. Amazon owns Twitch. I can't draw the book that I'm publishing through them on their platform. Like, the incongruity of policy is very telling.
I'm 100% with that. And I agree with you too. It does seem, I wish I had some research to pull up right this minute. I know that there are some studies and stuff that show that countries that care a little less about the whole nudity thing seem to have less of the problems that are supposed to be solved by not showing nudity, because it's no longer a taboo situation. I feel like the not showing nudity makes it taboo, makes it off limits, makes it mysterious and interesting,
Makes it
and
naughty.
Makes it not there. Yeah, naughty. Nice. All right. Now we're getting so no. No, but it's true. It makes it naughty. It makes it wrong, and then you find yourself, I think, with a lot of the problems that that come from that. Where if you're worried about, let's say, teenage pregnancy, or you're worried about pornography, or you're worried about any of these types of things that can, be a problem, pornography addiction or something like that, because it's so interesting, and your parents are telling you don't do it, and the world is telling you don't do it. When you're basically younger, that's exactly when you're trying to push the boundaries, and that boundary is when you're going to push up against. So
inevitably, almost.
Yeah, inevitably, and in probably ways that are not as healthy as they could be. Like, for example, just with art, which is not as innocuous. It's innocuous, essentially. It's a thing where you're just seeing reality. Art is supposed to show you some kind of mirror to reality. And yeah, I love what you said. I love what you said, that it's dishonest, because we're pretending something that is the most fundamental is not there.
Yeah.
And that we should be afraid or ashamed or something in that regard. I'm
yeah.
with you. You're firing me up about this. It's awesome.
The longer that I try and make this comic in public, the more passionately I feel about this, that it's pretty bad.
Yeah. And
this
so you said you've been waiting for a long time to just try to do this scene. So
it's really stressful to draw this scene on stream.
Wow. And they're just in the shower.
Yeah, they're just in the shower, doing normal shower things that you do, where you're like, oh man, I'm really stinky, and then you put water on yourself, and then you're not stinky anymore. That's the scene. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a little bit of a lie. I just left out all the subtext, but
well, people have to check out the book.
Yeah.
For the steamy shower scene.
The wild thing about the steamy shower scene is that it's really very unsteamy. And the weird thing about doing it on stream censored is that it makes it look naughty. People will read into panels that have nothing going on, and they're like, "Ooh, that creepy old man." And I'm like, that's just a guy. People see this finally go to the website after many months of being like, you want to see what this looks like, you can go to my website. And then they go there and they're like, oh, that's what this is? I'm like, yeah, that's what this is. It's just 5 pages of some people taking a shower. Also some pants attack a man. But don't worry about that.
That's amazing. The other thing too, the imagination in this book, like just the cover, like when you go to your website and I see some form of a like wooden / metal sort of automaton coming out of the ground. They're all taking notes, and it says like, this is normal. And I'm like, this is so good.
I'm so excited to get to the meat and potatoes. Book 3 is still like Act 1, and book 2 is Act 1 still. But when we get done with that, we're actually gonna get into it. I'm really excited about that.
I'm totally down. It sounds good. But yeah, I don't know if there's much more to say about that, because I don't know if we're gonna change the world on the nudity side of things. But I do feel that way. And also, like, I've always liked, I think your shower scene. Oh, I did want to say this. Sorry, I'll take it back. I'm getting excited and I end up jumping the gun on things. But I like the fact that you said it's an innocuous shower scene, and then adding the censorship actually makes it seem much more naughty. I mean, if you know anything about comedy,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes if you have a sketch and in the sketch somebody swears and they beep it out, the
Yeah.
beeping it out is more funny than
Yeah.
actually hearing the swear, because you're like, whoa, okay, they said something they
Uh-huh.
shouldn't have said, and it punctuates that. I think it's
Yeah.
similar.
It is. It's a Magritte's apple. Like, I can't remember what that piece is called, where there's the man in the bowler hat and just like apple in front of his face. And he says that's there because like without it, it would just be like a guy. But with the apple in the way, you're like, what's behind that apple?
Yeah, what's
What's
his
going
face
on
about?
there?
It
Yeah.
adds the whole mystery to the whole thing. You
Uh-huh.
That reminds me of, I don't know if you ever saw this, but there's a series on Netflix called The Naked Director. It's about these pornographers in the 80s in Japan,
Yeah.
and they had a lot of censorship. And it just reminded me, there's a scene where a lot of the guys who bought especially the younger kids, I'm saying younger kids because I'm old, but like the people, young men, like in their 20s or something like
Uh-huh.
that, they have this theory that if they use butter and try to rub off the censorship, that they'll be able to see what's underneath it, and they would spend like hours just trying to rub it off until basically the page would rip and like, let's try
Uh-huh.
mayonnaise, like they were trying different things. So like, it not only did the censorship not really work, it just made people do crazy things, basically, is the sort of the
Mm-hmm.
idea. So I think
Yeah.
it's somewhere. You talked about fine art and I talked about Japanese pornography.
I love it.
Somewhere in between there's a juxtaposition where we can say, hey, let's relax with it. But
Uh-huh.
what would be your ideal scenario then, in terms of you being able to create the things you want to create on Twitch, on whatever platforms you feel like, and not feeling like you're some sort of Japanese pornographer, I guess, is somewhere along the way.
I mean, ultimately, I think it comes down to moderation, like quality moderation. And a large group of people, that's just what you need. Like, you have bouncers for a club, you got moderators on our old forums, and that's how you keep the peace. It's a short answer.
Yeah.
Just have moderators. Uh,
And have them be good is essentially the game. Better
and have
training.
them be good. It's true. I've had forums where there have been young and reactive moderators who have made things worse too, and that's not a good jam
Fair.
for anybody.
Fair.
If you have a young and flighty, I keep saying young. That's a little bit ageist. There's a lot of really steady-handed young people.
It's true.
Uh,
It's okay.
if you have a wild and out there bouncer guy at your club, you're gonna prime people to be wild and extra in the club, and I feel that like Twitch has like an absentee slash wild and crazy mod. Like their bouncers like alternatively like, hey, I got you trying to sneak pot in. Ooh, everybody look at this guy. He's trying to sneak a pot in. And then like also sometimes the bouncer's just gone. And then like the ticket guy's like, hey, the bouncer's gone. You can't get in right now. I'm just like, what?
What do you mean?
What do you mean? Yeah, no. So
Yeah.
the answer is moderation. Like the sites that allow nudity have moderation. And that's what you
Okay.
do. And when things get weird, because the problem isn't nudity, the problem is bad nudity. So
Hmm.
like just quantify what is bad nudity and moderate that. Like we know what it looks like.
Yeah.
Like don't make abusive art. Like
Fair.
make a rule for that. Because that's very different. If you have, I don't know, I'm just going to throw this out there. Some people know what I'm talking about. If you have drawn a consensual relationship between Beavis and Butthead, I don't feel like that's particularly harmful to anybody. Uh,
I hadn't heard of that. Now I have.
yes,
I'm good with it. I'm good with it. I'm
There's
I'm
a
I'm
story.
I'm not, again, we don't want to be ageist, but I'm old enough to handle it. I'll be able to burden the burden of this 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 new information. But okay, yeah, I'm with that, and I could see there. I think we know certain lines and levels. Like then there's artistic nudity. Oh, there's not even artistic nudity. I'll just say like basic. I think what you were doing isn't even necessarily artistic nudity. It's just a scene of life.
It's
Um,
just
it happens to be art.
incidental. nudity in art. Yeah.
Circumstantial nudity, right? I guess that's
Yeah,
a
I
way to put
almost
it.
feel like cutting out the idea of artistic nudity, I think, is probably a good idea because it's a way of framing the conversation where there's good nudity and bad nudity in a let's see, how do I say this, where the good nudity and the bad nudity is about like style more than substance.
Hmm.
Because I think you could draw a very crass consensual Beavis and Butthead, um and I think that should still be fine nudity because the content is fine. This is an acceptable form of sexuality. And I don't want to be like we should never draw unacceptable things because sometimes you need to explore dark places to know why we don't go there. But like if we're gonna be doing it publicly, I think this is a fine line to draw. That like if you're drawing some wild aggressive stuff and you do it really well, maybe that's still bad.
Interesting. I find it's tough to say. Like, this is one of
It
those
is really
things.
tough to say. So when I'm making those examples particularly, it's like when you're like there's like artistic nudity, they're like you have to do it in pencils and you have to be like and you have to like oh they have like a beautiful frame
Yeah,
and
we
oh
need
it's a lady
charcoal
and
and
but like a lot of that stuff is just as leery and weird
yeah.
as just like some guy drawing boobs in his sketchbook and I there's just yeah.
You make a lot of good points. And and I also I don't want to put you on the spot like it's like your job to explain to everyone in the world what's available and what's not. And I actually on this podcast, that's a thing. I've said it a few times, and I've been recording a lot of episodes of it recently. And maybe I'm saying
Yeah.
the same things too much, but what I would like to do is try to promote some kind of I don't want to like appropriate the term non-binary, but less binary thinking about topics.
Is there like a word that's like dichotometric or something like that? Is that a word?
Non-dichotometric sounds pretty good. I'd like
It
to
sounds
avoid
pretty
the
a
dichotomies,
real word.
because there is a paradox of dichotomy for things. If you're there tends to be like, let's say being a leader, we talked about being a moderator or being a bouncer, you're essentially in a leadership position where you're setting
Uh-huh.
the tone for how things are going to go. And
Hmm.
in that position, don't want to be too like you don't want to be too much of a jerk. You don't want to be too much of an authoritarian. You don't want to be completely separated from the people that you're dealing with. Otherwise, you seem like some sort of tyrant. However, you can't also be, well, we're all friends and it's, we're going to just whatever happens, then things go to crap that way too. So there is a dichotomy that you kind of have to straddle the line in. And I think with a lot of these different topics, it's very possible that there are more than just saying this is good nudity, this is bad nudity. I don't know, and
Which is why I think we need moderators. It's a human thing, as Terry Pratchett has said.
yeah, I think that's right. And like I say, with any kind of topic, whether it's the nudity topic, sexuality topic, any topic, that's what I would like to promote with conversation is a civil discourse, some diplomatic method, which is awesome that you came to want to talk to me because of course your graphic novel, let me just read this. This is what it says on your website about your graphic novel when people want to know. Can I quote you on this? I will try
Yes.
to. If I did it wrong, then you can tell me I did it wrong, but I'll do this. It says, "We Are No One," which is the title of the comic. So, "We Are No One" began as an attempt to make a silly, thoughtless action comic for practice. Then I realized I hate violence. So, join me in my adventure now as I learn about nonviolent conflict management. And I see this, I want to talk about all these topics: nonviolent conflict management, conspiracy theories, serial killers, humanitarian demining, anxiety, forgiveness, moonshine, and more. So that's what it says. And I am fascinated. The first thing in here is non-violent conflict management. Over this long period of time, because basically the idea is in your comic, generally you're not using violence, as the means to solve the problems that the
Exactly.
characters come about. Is that good?
If they do violence, they get comeuppance for it. It never moves anything forward.
Wow. So what have you learned? What sort of methods? I mean, is there anything that pops out to you? What sort of methods of nonviolent conflict management have you been able to explore during this whole process of creating this comic?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's the kind they taught me in middle school, where it's like you should use I statements and that kind of business. There's like the de-escalation tactics of just how you speak personally. And this is the kind of conversational tactics that you use to basically maintain normal, calm behavior. If you're at baseline, you can keep it here by speaking in these manners. And I don't remember what the name is for this. It's in my notes, I'm sure. And then the next thing that I looked into, I was like, well, I live in Portland, so this is weird, but I'm going to look into police de-escalation tactics because they do have handbooks on it.
Nice.
I'm going to say they were remarkably short, but there were things that made sense in there. Ways of like holding yourself and showing that you're not there to do harm, and again speaking in a way that's calming and keeps things lower key. And that's a kind of thing that will not make a bad situation worse, but I didn't get the sense that it could stop a bad situation, which I found very disconcerting. It felt like damage mitigation more than stopping things, which seemed pretty bad because I had started a story where there was a lot of momentum towards bad stuff, and I wasn't sure that I could stop it. I was like, is any amount of talking, is any amount of calm diplomacy going to make this not happen? Did I write too hard of a story for myself to get out of? And that's when I found a book called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
I was going
And
to
he
ask you about
frames
that.
it, yeah, he frames it as a business book, but it is a negotiation tactics book by a former FBI negotiator. And I was like, oh, finally, here's how you get out of the tightest things. Like the parts of the movie where you're like, well, I guess they got to do a violence. Chris Voss is like, no, there is no line. It gets harder. Like, if you've gotten to this point, you really messed up. But like, you can get out of there. So yeah, Chris Voss's book was clutch. I wouldn't have been able to write this without it.
I'm going to ask you about that then, because I know you read the book Split the Difference. I also read the book Split the Difference. Never split the difference. Never split the difference. Never split the difference. It was some months ago, but were you able, and I know you were able to obviously incorporate some of these tactics into the book. Were you able to incorporate any of these tactics into your life? And I guess I'm answering
constantly.
because I've been able to do some, and it's actually been good. So yeah, tell me some stories.
The mirroring one is remarkably, like, it's so good. So here's all it is. When somebody says something to you, you repeat like the last 3 words they said to you as a question, and they will just keep talking. And this works on 99% of people, which just blows my mind. If like, it doesn't matter what you want from them, like, just get them to keep talking with these other 3 words, and then you can start finding. Or maybe you don't want anything. Maybe you're at a party and you're just kind of anxious and you just want people to keep talking at you so you don't have to do it. You can literally just mirror people and they will happily keep going. I found one person that this does not work on, and that also kind of broke me. But
It kind of broke you? No.
Yeah, I was like, what? What? I don't understand. What is going on with you that you hate talking about yourself so much that this isn't going to do anything?
Mm-hmm. Maybe they're a master. Maybe they're a master of never split the difference. You never know.
I think they are.
I'm going to try to use that a little more often too, actually, because I think
it's fun.
I do like that. I think for me, I've been able to use nobody asked, but here I am talking about myself. So
no, tell.
I'm not like this guy. I think anchoring was a good process, like starting out, particularly because I ask people things a lot, like be on my podcast, which is, I'm sure an annoying question for people these days because everyone has a podcast and everybody wants everyone to be on their podcast. So I'm like, okay, I'm sure this is gonna be annoying. I'm sorry about being so nice. If I know you, I don't have to do that so much. I'm like, hey, you're awesome. We talked before. Can we chat?
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes, if I'm just reaching out to someone out of the blue and putting them on the spot to give me some kind of answer, I'm like, look, I know this is
Mm-hmm.
tedious. Please just like allow me to be tedious for a second. And I would love it if you could be on my podcast and da 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 da, you know? And that tends to be good because, like, oh, you're not being tedious. You're not, it's not, we expected some kind of bad ask or some kind of
Yeah.
insult or something. This is social media. Like, I figured you were going to rag on me for something I said. And instead you asked me to be on your show because you think I'm great. Not the
Mm-hmm.
worst thing. So I kind of anchor it as low. Um, the other one was tactical empathy,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was good because it is essentially, these are almost good manners, I find, like in a
They
way, like
are.
just like, why don't you have good manners?
Good sales is good manners, and turns out a good negotiation is too.
Yeah, so I'm just like, okay, be empathetic with somebody about where they're coming from and how that's going, and say, yeah, okay, but towards the end that you're aiming for, I think that way we both have a good end here. Things don't go out of control. We don't lose
Mhm.
track, and
He
but
has
meanwhile the problem is solved.
a great, and I'm not going to remember the exact line. He says something to the effect of, "There's a misconception that empathizing with your enemies is like dangerous or weak or something." And like, we're totally capable of empathizing with people without becoming them. Like, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to see where they're coming from. That's where they always like, or else we're the same as them.
I
I think
know.
I saw like a Navy SEAL talk about that. It was way more hardcore than all of this, though, because he was
Mhm.
just saying like, "Hey, we have to kill all these people." Was basically the story. And they're like, "But if we do that, won't we be the same as them?" And then he has a very intelligent response to it. It's like, "Well, we're not the same as them because here's the things they do," and like he goes on a list of some pretty horrific, awful crimes. And he's like, well, we
Mhm.
don't do any of that, but it's the reason why we have to kill them all. It's like, oh, damn.
All right.
But he's a Navy SEAL. That's his job. So I
That's
understand.
very real.
Yeah, it's legit. But and he's like, okay, it's hard to argue a little bit. But back to the de escalation story
Yeah.
that we're going for, which I do find that that's the case. So I'm wondering, this is like maybe too far, and of course I want to talk to you more about like the blep book and stuff as well, so we'll get into the blep version of the book. But since we're on this topic, I do wonder, like, what are your thoughts on just diplomacy in general, civil discourse? I do feel like it seems like we're supposed to be choosing sides in a lot of times these days on a lot of topics, whether they be political or social or artistic, or it's like, well, nudity's bad. No, nudity's good. And like, it's like, this conversation isn't real to me. Like, you're not
Mhm.
realistically solving anything if you're calling something bad. Oh, everyone who thinks this, they're crap, they're garbage. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool. So not empathizing, this is the point, this is why I'm rambling about this, is not
Mhm.
empathizing with the person who you perceive to be your enemy, who's on the other side of that diplomatic table, probably stops anything from ever going forward, and we end up just having a cartoony conflict, that's a fiction, like almost a fictional conflict. We were never going to get anywhere with
Mhm.
that. I'm feeling that way. What are your thoughts on maybe how a person can empathize, or at least be diplomatic in some of these
Well,
circumstances?
now we're talking about forgiveness. Uh,
It's
'Cause I
one of them.
think that is more or less what that's for. I think that in a social setting, which is most settings, empathy is power, and you're not going to be able to get very much of it without forgiving people. And I don't mean that you have to forgive people. That's not a categorical imperative. This is just, in order to do a strong empathy, you have to have done that. And in order to have done that, you can't be actively being hurt by that person. Because if you're in danger, you can't dismiss what's happening to you. Like, that's what anger is for. It's to protect you. So if you need protecting, you can't forgive the person who is putting you in that situation. That's just how it works, and that's not only fine, it's just how it is. And so I think it's important where you can to not scare people worse. You're not always going to be able to, because there's a lot of scary things, and some people do need to be protected, and some things you should be angry about. But where you can, if you can be an insulator for violence and absorb punches instead of hitting back, I think that helps, even if in the same conversation you don't get what you want, because it means somebody else is going to have an easier time in the future.
Well, I'm just thinking about that. No, it's a good starting point. It's a good starting point. I mean, it can't. It's in a way I hear you can't be just trying to win. I guess like in these sort of circumstances, you are thinking outside of yourself. You are not leaving yourself in a circumstance where you're continually being attacked and damaged and injured.
Yeah, take care of yourself. Yeah. Definitely.
However, getting yourself to that place where you're outside of that, and maybe both parties are to some degree outside of that, and it becomes perceived damage or perceived, now we're in a place where we can go, okay, why do you perceive that this is damaging you? Oh, okay, I could see where you're coming from. Why do I perceive that this is damaging me? Well, this is it. Can you hear where I'm coming from? Maybe that's it. Like getting out of a state of inflammation, almost some sort of a argumentative inflammation. Get the inflammation down a little bit, and then start working on the healing, I guess. Is that a crazy way to put it?
I think it's slightly different than what I've said, but
is it totally different? I'm like,
it's not totally different. It's just it's on the same. It's in the same book. It's not the same page. Yeah.
I think that's it. Is like I'm trying to work it out, and I think that's part of the conversation here because I'm interested. Well, okay, give me some color as to what's different about what I'm saying, because I'm kind of trying to repeat it back to you in a different metaphor. But
yeah,
what am I missing here from what you're trying to say? Because I don't want to misrepresent what you're saying.
I think that in what I'm trying to say is that threats and perceived threats are the same. Conversationally, they're the same. And to not be the kind of person who perceives all the threats. I don't know if I want to say the kind of person, whatever. You will need to have done a forgiveness. You need to not be in danger, and you need to have like done whatever work it is to see that that is not happening right now, so that you're not reacting to something extra. And that takes time without fear, and that's hard and weird and kind of backwards, but once you've done that, then you can have a conversation with somebody who might otherwise sound like they're coming at you, and maybe you can come away with new things, or maybe you can just go get a beer together and not talk about it. You could also do that. I think that's what I'm saying.
That makes sense. Yeah. I guess I would. This may seem like a very simple question, but like, what even is forgiveness in your I'm gonna say, well, what do you feel forgiveness is? Like in your opinion, in your paradigm, what is that? Because I think it's tough to. It's so funny how a lot of these types of words, conversations seem to get convoluted, because they do maybe have more than one meaning and more than one context and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But what is forgiveness that you're talking about right now?
So it's not something you do for other people. I think that's something else, and we should probably have a different word for it. Being like, no, it's okay, and like you placate them and they feel better. Like, I don't really. That's a thing to do, and that repairs relationships. But I wouldn't call it the same thing. Like if somebody punches you and then you're furious with them, that means that you think they're gonna do it again. Probably. On some level, you're like, well, now I can't be around this person because they're gonna do that again, so I better be ready to punch them. Or maybe it just makes you sad. Maybe you, you can be sad about something, not mad about it. But you're gonna be like living in that I got punched land. So you need to, one, not be gonna get punched, because otherwise you can't. And then once you not be gonna be punched, you're like, well, this person was doing a thing, and I accept that they're not going to do it again. And it's a clean slate essentially.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think they can look like a lot of different things. So it's hard to put like words like this is the brain thing that you have to do. But
It's a good picture. That's a good picture though. It's easy for me to digest on that.
Like, oh, good. Okay.
No, that makes sense. That made sense to me. Awesome. And honestly, I think that's a hard question actually, to just say what's forgiveness. Like, okay, we could define a lot of things a lot of different ways, but to have broken it down into imagery, it shows me what a great storyteller you must be.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Hard on that one.
Okay, let me ask about a few more of the things that were in this list of stuff, because we talked about nonviolent conflict and we talked about forgiveness. But what about, this is a fun one, conspiracy theories. How does that factor in? Like what did you learn in conspiracy theories
that you talked to? It was wild because I started writing this story before 2020. I started writing in like 2017 or something like that. And then boy, all the conspiracy stuff got extremely real. That was weird.
Yeah.
Like some people literally conspiring, often badly. Just inept conspiracies, which is amazing to watch because then you get to see it all because they just did it in public and you're like, why'd you do that? Anyway, 2020 was the whole thing. It's
totally true. That's a good point. That was where I started actually feeling nervous because I'm like, are you not trying now? Is this it? I actually started to think about sometimes do solo episodes on this too. I have one solo episode that I talked about the nature of Superman. It sounds silly, but it gets somewhat deep, I guess. And I like the character, so I wanted to make a show about him. But I have another one that I'm thinking of doing. Haven't done it yet, but I'm going between two different ideas. But it's about kayfabe. Do you know this concept? It's from wrestling.
Yes.
And I kind of felt that what you're talking about, it sort of felt like that to me. I'm like, are these guys just pretending right now? Like, is this kayfabe where we pretend it's real and they pretend it's real and nobody says it's not?
Yeah, it got very surreal. And that was a weird experience having been writing this script for a while. There's several things in the script that I put in there deliberately, to distance myself from reality. And then reality happened and was like, hey, I'm much weirder. I'm like, gosh darn it. They told me that reality was always stranger than fiction. And yet I tried anyway. Yeah. So conspiracy theories.
Yeah. What was some of the best ones or some of the stuff that caught you or that you got really interested in or that informed your work?
Yeah. So I don't read conspiracy theories.
Me neither, just to say. I know nothing about it.
Just to put down what kind of person I am. But my roommate really enjoyed digging into them. But he had a interesting way of looking into them. He's actually gone back to school and become like a journalist, and he writes for the newspaper now.
Amazing.
So he enjoyed doing research like deep research into like kind of more known conspiracies and like figuring out who actually was talking to who actually knew who was working for who. I guess it wasn't just known conspiracies. There was that one time when he was researching a shipping company and he found a shell company. He found like a shell company for a smuggling operation. That was wild.
Wicked.
Yeah. That's just amazing. Like a baby thing, but like it was. Yeah, anyway, so this guy was my roommate, and so when I was writing the script, I was having a really hard time getting the four main characters to gel, because the main dude was just like really normal. And I just couldn't, he just had nothing in common with anybody else. He's just like a guy who went to college and then shit happened. And then I got to talking with my roommate and I was like, wait, what if he was into this? What if he was going to school to learn about this? Because that means he has like a fundamental distrust of the system, which basically means he's got something in common with anybody in prison.
Yeah.
Honestly. Like, and it fits in thematically because he has a like almost what do you call it, whatever, I don't know the word. He has like too much of a fear of the system. Like it feels to him like the world is out to get him.
Yeah. He's got a paranoia type or maybe a possibly yeah.
But then like, is it paranoia if they're really out to get you? So it's been justified in some cases, so like where does it stop? And yeah, that really made the story finally snap together. And then I got to write a lot of weird conspiracy theories for the world, and that was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah? How did you then go about creating, what are the elements to what are the elements to a good conspiracy theory that you found when you've had to make up fictional ones?
I mean, I usually start the same way that I would like a D&D campaign, honestly, but maybe
nice.
That's just me using the tools that I've got, where I start with like characters and what they want, and then I make a little diagram with their relationships to other people and like what they're getting from them. We use little green lines if they're getting the money, and we use little white lines if they have like relationships. And then once they have like a little network going, then they're able to conspire together to get too much stuff for them to legally have.
Wonderful. Man, I love it. This is why I love talking to you, because I the lines, you know, the I would have not have thought that, but yeah, put a line, color code the line, and you've got yourself something. Well, you got yourself a conspiracy.
And you can immediately put it up on a sticky board because you've already drawn it that way. It's very handy.
That's so cool. And you know, recently last year started painting miniatures.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and this year started to actually do the modeling for like landscapes and all that kind of stuff. I've never really done this kind of thing before, not really crafty in that regard. Always was the writing, but it wasn't as crazy hard as I thought it would be, and we started getting good results pretty much right away. So yeah, well, yeah. We made a board game.
Miniatures of landscapes?
Yeah, started to do landscapes so that the game can progress, like, because here's the way this started was my wife wanted to do I'm going to tell this story pretty much in every single podcast, I swear to God, because I'm proud of it. But wanted to do a game for Christmas for the nieces and nephews, just because we kind of show up and we hang out we're there for a long time, and I feel like there's probably not that much for kids to do, and it's mostly adults hanging around, and it's like, okay, run around the house, I guess. And so we're like, what if we did a game and they won their gifts and stuff? Like we had stocking stuffers or something, and they won things as they progressed through the game. So we did that, just like made a board of like paper, and we printed out stuff and just like handmade stuff, you know, and gave them things, and it was cool, and they seemed to have fun. So we're like, what if we did something more than that? You know, this is what happens with us. It's just like, what if it was bigger? So we made like a legitimate tile-based board game that we had the tiles printed. We have a board, a box. Their faces are on the box. Like we did the artwork.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it went like fully nonsense. And then we painted like 37 miniatures by hand with like the magnifying glasses and, you know, contrast paints and stuff.
Yeah.
So we went crazy. We went totally crazy. So we did that. That went well. And now we're like, well, what if there was landscapes and LEDs and all manner of trees and grass and worlds and time travel, and I'm a writer, right? So I'm like, well,
oh boy,
if we can do anything we want with this, so if we can make it, we can do it. We can think it, and if there's a way to build it, we're gonna do it. So we're kind of doing that, but shh, don't tell anybody.
Okay, it's a secret, except for me and every other podcast guest.
Every other person who is gonna have to hear this. But yeah, so we did all of that. So I got excited when you said D&D. Basically, that whole rant came from me hearing that you said that, and I was like, oh, you know, That's good. Okay.
Those skills are applicable. You get to
It's-
use them for all sorts of things.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, there's two things here. I don't know which one to ask first. First of all, serial killers. I know why you were researching. You'd have to know a little bit about this for
I would.
your,
Mm-hmm.
this character, these characters, and it's a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a main part of the whole story. Did you have to research? Did you learn something? Oh, you did. Okay. That's a topic I actually don't like that much.
It was one of the less fun ones.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting and also just kind of horrible and confounding too. Like
In what
you
way?
don't get good answers. Like there's always this why question, and we just kind of don't have a good like an answer.
I could see that. You mean like
Because
when you're
it's
trying to find out
fundamentally
why is this
like, yeah,
happening?
why does a serial killer do the thing? And like you can kind of get a pseudo why, but then once you start asking why to that why, you just end up with gobbledygook. It never falls out evenly.
Hmm.
And if it does, then you're a more moralistic creature than I am, I suppose. I'm a humanist, I think you'd call me.
Okay.
If you're more like Kaya, the serial killer, you're probably gonna have a easier answer because you're more Kantian. But
Hmm. And it's true. I'm thinking the image that's coming to my mind is I once watched an interview with a person who was committed because it was an educational thing to show the psychology, a criminal psychology educational video, right? They're
mm-hmm.
like, here's a guy pretending to be crazy, and here's a
Mm-hmm.
guy who's actually criminally insane. And the crazy guy is doing all the like theatrics essentially, and the actual criminally insane person is extremely polite, talking very straightforwardly, and this guy's asking him questions. He answers every question, damning himself completely. He has no reason to even try to get out. He's not even trying to get out of it. He's just like, oh yeah, that's what I did. No, and then I, and then I shot him, and he's this. He made the sound. It was weird. And they're like, do you feel sorry? He's like, I wished I would have gotten away with it for longer.
Uh-huh.
And they're like, do you feel bad about it? No, sir. No, sir. And it's like, well, why did you do this? And it's like, well, I wanted to see if, and it's just like some logical answer that's not a real answer. There's no real motivation. He had nothing to gain. And so is that what you mean? Like when you say there's no good answer?
Some are like that. Some people have apparent answers. Do you believe them? Ever? I don't know. Can you?
No,
I feel like some part of it has to be sort of true, maybe. And at some point, it doesn't matter to me as a writer because I can emulate any of that. But it's weird. That's some parapsychology right there. That's not the right word. That's from freaking Alan Wake and stuff. That's not the right word at all.
Parapsychology more like ghosts?
Yeah, that's my take. Serial killers are all possessed by ghosts. Don't quote me on that. That's
Could
a lie.
Be. That was Michael Myers from Halloween, I think. That was his problem. He was demonized or
the
something.
documentary Halloween, yeah.
It solves our problem immediately.
Yeah.
This immediate issue is solved by Halloween. But
yeah,
no,
I guess
don't
a
know.
lot of my serial killer research really came down to the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath. Which is not to say that all serial killers are either of those things. I'm not really sure. It's hard to tell because those diagnosis paths are kind of bad the same way all of our other brain diagnoses are as well. But in as much as you can categorize them, sociopaths are pretty different from psychopaths, and it's pretty weird that they get confused all the time.
What is the differences? Because I think it's I mean, just as you know it, I know this is not your field of expertise,
right.
but
you did
some research. Neither of us is an expert in anything. This is a fun conversation, right? So that's
right.
sort of the idea. But I'm very interested because if you asked me to make a distinction, I'll go, I looked that up once. Don't remember now what the difference was. Like, what's the difference between this and this? I'm like, oh, that's the difference. And I instantly forgot what the difference was. So if you remember, please tell me.
So a psychopath is like, they have a fundamental, like, they will not be able to, oh man. And so there's different kinds of empathy. And I'm gonna misremember this.
It's okay.
But there's empathy where you like can identify other people's emotions, I think is one of them. And then the other one is like you feel some of what they're feeling when you see somebody feeling a thing. And then another one is you can identify why somebody might be feeling the way that they're feeling. And I think that there's a fourth one and maybe a fifth one, and I don't remember what they are. But the real point is that a psychopath is completely capable of doing like the third one. Like they can do the heavy lifting of like, well, why would they feel that way? And they're gonna probably come up with weird answers because they don't experience things in the same way that most of us would, because they don't get the second one. And I have heard that there's some evidence that there is an actual physical change in the brain, that things don't connect properly. So like there's an inability to, I guess we'll call it, sympathize.
That makes sense. Oh yeah, I looked up something, and we'll see if they've got it. This is from. It looks like it's from Forbes, so I don't know.
That might be fine. They're journalists.
They're journalists. It's true. I mean, it's a good. It was good for money for sure. I thought that was more about business and cash, but at the same time, business and cash, sociopaths.
Yeah, Forbes probably. Yeah, they say a bit of that. Sociopaths are it's the problem comes about through nurture more than nature, is my understanding. So like you can develop sociopathy with just a bad time, where you become kind of disconnected from other humans. And I don't quite remember all of the traits, but the general thing is that there's going to be a swinginess to a sociopath, where the emotions are not, they don't understand their own emotions properly, and they swing wildly.
That sounds
whereas a psychopath is gonna probably look more like your classic, like purely logical, calm looking guy who's fitting in.
That makes sense.
Mean, yeah.
This is what Forbes is saying, actually. They're saying sociopaths tend to act more impulsively and erratically compared to psychopaths. Sociopaths generally struggle to maintain a job or family life, whereas psychopaths may be able to do so. While psychopaths generally struggle to form attachments, sociopaths may be able to do so with a like-minded individual. So if you're looking for a job, psychopath's the way to go on this one. If apparently, according to Forbes.
You're picking your path, yeah.
Yeah. If you're picking your path, psychopath for jobs, and sociopath for love.
Yeah.
So this is perfect. That's I didn't. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't expect to be talking about psychopaths and sociopaths so much on this episode, but this is what's fun about the whole thing. So okay, wow. It sounds like that's a deep situation. I don't know if deep is a good way to put it, but it's an interesting situation, especially since you're a person who's not into it. That's I don't know. I want to bring this up. I want to bring this up too. As far as serial killer stuff, I'm glad that what you've got going it is a thread, it is a somewhat of a spine, it is a starting point, but it's not like necessarily only about serial killers, or not actuals. I don't like true crime, and I don't really like shows that are about a real serial killer.
True crime for research, and I couldn't do it. I found it so fear-mongery.
Really?
Like, and then the guy did a bad one again. And I'm like, okay, but like, can you just roll off those facts for me, please? Okay, who did what, where? I don't need this big bump music every time. So it's like the Reading Rainbow noise. And then he did a badness again. Bump. Anyway, it wasn't my vibe. I couldn't do true crime. It's not in me.
No, it's not for me either. I actually kind of don't like it. It feels a little bit exploitative, just a little to me. It's like, yeah, we got Zac Efron playing the real murderer that actually murdered lots of people. Ha ha ha! Isn't that amazing? What a hero he was. He's the protagonist of this movie. You know,
Do
and I'm
you guys
like,
want copycat murderers? Have you not watched Criminal Minds?
well, even that, it's just like, okay, like I understand. I don't know, because I do, like, and now I'm saying let's censor that in a way, but I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that.
No, I'm saying that they have a responsibility to make better art and they should do it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm going to stop them. I'm saying they should stop.
Yeah.
There's a difference. I'm not going to do a violence at you about this. I'm just saying you're being irresponsible and bad artists and you should stop.
Yeah. I agree. Like, people will watch this, and so you did it, you know? And I'm like, okay, maybe it's our fault too if people watch it, but at the same time, maybe don't make it either, because it's just like people are dead and chopped up in a freezer. So
it's in bad taste.
It's in bad taste. That's fair. Let's
talk about it. Like, let's talk about death. Death is a thing we should talk about more often.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how wild this is, because it's scary that this is a possibility. But like, maybe let's not sensationalize it. Let's maybe actually talk about it.
That makes a lot of sense.
You could fit in way more information about all these serial killers if you weren't so busy trying to make a big bombastic shiny thing out of it.
Yeah. No, you're trying to make a horror movie essentially. Like we talked about Halloween, right? And it's like, but this wasn't a thing. And then I do feel like sometimes filmmakers are a little bit, now see, I don't know what the difference is. Is it maybe they're psychopaths and not sociopaths? But sometimes like the bigger producers and stuff have gotten disconnected a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, oh, this is what's going to go. Oh, with people, this is what people are into right now. Well, who's the latest serial killer? You know, like, okay, this conversation is getting out of control. So yeah.
They don't have to be either path to lack empathy in certain areas. That's the wild thing about empathy. You think like, oh man, I do this rant a good amount of times on the stream.
Please.
People are like, I'm an empath, right? And that's nonsense. Like, pretty much everybody is. And even a psychopath has some forms of empathy. They understand that other humans exist, probably. Probably they understand some concept of other people, other things that are shaped like them, moving around and doing stuff, and at least having the semblance of intention. They can do that. They have a model of empathy. But like, empathy is learned. You're not born with it. Babies are, they don't understand. They don't have a concept of self. You can't have a concept of other people if you don't have a concept of yourself. They have no division. The first thing is, oh, I guess I'm separate from that thing. And then they have to build a model of what that thing is out there. And you learn. And if you're in a little bubble, say a Hollywood bubble, you might not realize that the thing out there is different enough from you that it requires another model.
That makes a lot of sense. When you get into a bubble or echo chamber of some kind, some things that are not that normalized, other places are normalized in your smaller community, and you don't feel like you're stepping over any kind of line. You're not getting any kind of feedback from others in that regard. You're saying, this sounds great. Oh, if it's great, then it's great, I guess, you know, and we're not doing anything wrong. People love it. Oh, billions of people watched it. It's a hit. We did it. Congratulations. You know, so I could see that being what happens. Okay, fair enough. We solved it. The two of us just now.
We did it. We solved Hollywood, everybody.
Okay. You know what? I did want to ask you about humanitarian demining, because you said you learned a little bit about this. I don't know what this is. Like, can I be ignorant for a minute and just not know what this is? I could have looked it up. I know that. But then I wouldn't have been able to ask you. So
it's demining, like removing explosive remnants of war. And it's humanitarian because it's being done outside of a war zone. This is not an active war. This is being done in usually by civilians, but in this case, it's being done by the military for civilians.
Okay, I feel stupid now, because when I read humanitarian demining, and they say landmines, right? We're talking about landmine. Jesus Christ. Okay, so
everybody does this. It's not just you.
I, for some reason, thought like we were like filling in coal mines or something.
Everybody thinks this.
Is that true?
It's a tragedy that Princess Diana died, because we would all remember if she was still around. She was a huge champion of
She didn't like
humanitarian
landmines,
demining.
yeah.
She spearheaded a lot of campaigns to make a lot of money, to get a lot of minefields. What do you call them? Demined. Yeah.
Demined. Well, humanitarianly demined. So
yes, exactly.
No, I'm with it now. Now I'm right up to speed. So, and I guess, well, is that one of the things you learned during this time, or did you know that Princess Diana was doing this before?
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, so you learned it. Wow, that's too bad. I mean,
I know it is. She was pretty great.
She was cool. Everybody loved Princess Diana.
I didn't know much about her until I started writing this, and then I learned she was about that, and then I learned a little more about her. And I was like, oh, dang, no wonder people were upset.
Yeah. She had a lot of humanitarian stuff. She was legit.
Yeah.
As far as I know. I mean, I don't know. That's the image. We have a lot of images of people, I'm sure.
It's true. She has.
That's the other topic, actually. That's the other topic. There's kayfabe, and the other topic is, can we still I'd like to be able to still like people, even if they're not perfect, because there's been my example for that one is Bruce Lee, also because I'm a big fan of Bruce Lee. If you look into some of the stuff a little bit, back in the day, you wouldn't have noticed any of this, but I'm like, there are some things, that are not perfect. He's considered to be almost like a godlike figure in the martial arts world. So if you love martial arts and martial arts movies, you love Bruce Lee, you know? And so, but he wasn't a perfect guy. And if I feel like those things are you're almost not allowed to bring that up. It's like, no, but he did all this. I'm like, he actually didn't do most of that. He was a good figurehead for a lot of this stuff. But there was many, many, many things in Bruce Lee where he was not a perfect guy. He was a guy, he was a guy making movies, doing martial arts, great speaker, very charismatic, probably super cool. But some of these main points they're plagiarized essentially. And there's no saying this is something I made up. And it's like, you didn't make it up. You stole a lot of that stuff. And,
oh, really?
Well, yeah. And so I kind of go well, this is one of my big heroes. It bothered me a lot when I look into it and go, yeah, now that I'm an adult, I can see that some of this stuff maybe isn't quite great. Even how he passed away and stuff is a whole another thing. The way it's projected and the way things actually were are pretty rough. You could slag on Bruce Lee if you wanted to, pretty easily, but he's almost like a sacred cow in a way, when it comes to the martial arts community, that this is the guy and we love him. But I'm like, we can love him anyway. That's sort of where I want to go with that. We can love him anyway. He's a human being. He made some mistakes. He was in some situations, and I don't think he did this in a malicious manner. So I don't know. I would like to talk about, one, forgiveness of that stuff. You had an idea. It was your picture of these people.
Well, in this case,
yeah,
he is dead. So he can't do anything else. Just to be really dark about it.
No, you're right. He's dead. Thank you.
Remember, there's a
Thank you,
time
Kathryn.
for forgiveness.
Wait, is Bruce Lee dead? Oh yeah, no, he's dead.
Yeah.
That's a classic. It's a joke. I think it's from an Adam Sandler movie, actually, where it's he does an impression of Cary Grant's butler, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like, you want to see my impression of Cary Grant's butler? And he's like, yeah. Oh no, he's dead. Okay, bye-bye. And so so yeah, because Cary Grant's dead. So I guess it would be Bruce Lee in this scenario.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he passed away. So from my perspective, though, it's just I hear it a lot. I love martial arts. I have my whole life, and so it is a thing where every time I hear it, where it's something we're saying, well, Bruce Lee said this. I'm like, well, Musashi said that, but yeah, Bruce Lee said that. Bruce Lee took it from him and said it again. That was good, and then pretended he said it. So that's cool. I'm like, oh, Bruce Lee's motto was this. I'm like, it was Mao Zedong's motto. He took it from a speech. But since we didn't speak Chinese, we didn't know that. But that kind of thing, I kind of like that. And I'm like, okay, it bugs me a little. But then at the same, and I'm like, all you needed to do was say, oh, in my research, I found that this person said this, and here's the way I think about it. And I wouldn't have thought any less of you, but instead you were kind of stealing it. And,
Yeah.
and that was how it was. Or like, he's the father of MMA. I'm like, well, no, because he didn't do any of that when he was in China. Then he came to the United States where they have Kaju Kembo since 1947. He's literally wearing those gloves in Enter the Dragon in the first scene that he's in. And so I'm like, yeah, he found that and then decided he was going to do that, So I'm kind of like that. Or like, oh, he was the writer of the show Kung Fu and they stole it from him. Like, no, they actually had that. He auditioned for it, didn't get the part, and decided he was going to write something of his own exactly the same. So
wow,
that's not really the same. So I'm going off on a tangent. This is crazy. You didn't want to hear any of this. It has nothing to do with
I've just learned a lot about Bruce Lee. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. And then it's darker. If we want to talk about darker, he said he's dead. Well, he passed away in his mistress's house from a drug that they had taken, and it was prescription drugs of some kind. And it's like, that's very dark, very sad. He was, I guess he was, I don't know what he was taking. It was something I've never heard of. Apparently it's a painkiller of some kind.
Oh, shit.
And he passed, he went into a coma while on Enter the Dragon a few weeks before. And he came out of it and went back to work. So there's a bunch of this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, okay, it's hard. Can we get past any of that? Yeah. I think honestly, like, human beings do these kind of things sometimes, especially when they're in high pressure jobs, high pressure situations. They're high powered individuals. I mean, I don't like it. I don't want to hear that he's the one who came up with all that stuff, because that's not true. But was he amazing? Yeah. That's the other thing. Bruce Lee was amazing. He was an incredible physical specimen. He was very good at martial arts. He was very intelligent. The way that he put a lot of these philosophies was actually somewhat better than some of the originals. So, and he made the best kung fu movies of the time, up until Jackie Chan decided to say, hold my beer. And then there we were, but that, so now that's not a solo podcast anymore because I just literally said everything to you just now. But no, I guess the whole thing is like facing some realities without the hardcore judgment of that reality. He's like, that's a human being. He made some mistakes. I'm a human being. I've made mistakes. I still love the things that he did well. Don't like the things he didn't do well. Is there a way to do that? Do you think there's a way to do that? Separate things and say, no, he was bad for this and good for that. And one doesn't make the other one good, or one doesn't make the other one bad. We can still be a fan. I
think I'm going to use an idiom, and I'm not sure if I made it up or if it came from somebody else. Somebody knows where this came from. You gotta let me know, because I've been accused of having said this.
Okay.
And I don't know that I did. To put somebody on a pedestal is to turn them to stone.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm sure this does sound like something. I don't know the original author. If there is an original author, it could be one of those unknown.
I'm searching for it and I cannot find it.
Okay, I'll look for it in the meantime.
I should probably just go back through all of the books that I have, and it seems like the kind of ungoogleable book thing that I just adopt. But I have a predilection towards a little bit of I'd say hero worship, but I don't even know that's quite right. I attach myself to things or people, things or people. Like right now, I'm super into Alan Wake, and that's just what my brain wants to think about. And when I was younger, I feel like this made my model of reality very weird. Because when you raise something up like that, you need it to be perfect. Have you read The Halo Effect?
Halo Effect? Have I read? No.
The Halo Effect is a very fun business book that makes fun of other business books. It's about how when a person seems to be good at one thing, we tend to think they're good at everything.
So we turn them into an angel, essentially.
We do, yeah.
That's true.
And the reverse is also true. When a person is bad at something or did a bad thing, we tend to think that they were bad at everything. And so being really attached to things, I think, makes the halo effect like way stronger. And I think that makes the narratives that we write around people very weird
That's very
and not
true.
useful.
You know, it kind of reminds me of something in the other direction. I think maybe it's Peter's law or something like that. Don't quote me on it because I'm not sure, but it's one of these laws. You know, somebody's law, somebody effect. I think it might be Peter's law, where a person rises to their level of incompetence, which essentially is as
Yes.
soon as they become, you know, hey, they're good at this. Let's
Uh-huh.
keep promoting them. Let's get them up here. This person must be great at that until they reach a level where they are no longer competent at the skills that are required
Uh-huh.
for, like, hey, you're the best maker of this software. You're the best R&D person at this software company.
And that's how terrible managers are born.
There's the management issue, right? It's Peter's law,
Mm-hmm.
where like they're actually incompetent of this, and there's like, oh well, they're not really very good at this now. So what do we do? They can only rise to their level of incompetence, as opposed to this halo idea that they're just going to be amazing at everything.
That's also true. The combination of those two is also a bad time. This is actually part of why I'm only hands on my stream.
Yeah.
I would prefer not to be the face of my art so much. Like, this is fine. This is me talking as a human to you.
Yeah.
But like, when I'm on stream, I'm a performer, and I don't want to be. I don't want to be on a pedestal. I think that makes me very weak because I'm not a perfect person. And if you think that I am and you try and emulate me, then you're gonna have a bad time. I think. Don't try and be me.
Yeah.
But I can make fake characters. I mean, who are also extremely imperfect, but in a known quantity. Like, there's no surprises. Or if there are surprises, you probably made them up and they're yours and you get to own those. Like, that's not my problem anymore.
That's nice. I like that, and I'm with you on that. I've always loved your stream and the way it's just hands. I don't think it needed to be something. I don't think we need to see face. I never wanted to do this either. It's like really my face too, you know. But it's probably why I didn't start this sooner. Like, in my 20s, I had an idea that it would be great to interview 1,000 people and find out what people were all about and people from different things. It would be so awesome. Didn't do it because I'm like, I don't want to be in front of things. I think
Right.
when I was like 19 or something, I did an acting class or a few months, you know, that there's like a workshop you do for a few months. And then I was like, I don't want to be an actor because then I have to be the face of the whole thing, or I'd rather create the whole thing. You know, I'd rather be in the back, I'll write the whole thing. It'll be fun.
It makes I don't understand people who want to be actors. You want to be the face, but also just be a tool for everybody else on set? What a weird job. I don't understand.
It's so crazy. Like, it reminds me, Willem Dafoe was talking about this, saying that he loves working with a director who has vision because he likes to. He put it this way. He actually said, "I like to be their creature." You know,
Wow.
he's like, "I want to be your creature, where you can tell me this is the vision of this person, and then I can be that." And so I guess that's why he's so good, probably because he actually
is a
likes
creature.
that.
Yeah.
He's got the creature-ish aspect to him.
You do.
He's amazing.
Yes.
We love Willem Dafoe apparently here on this this podcast. Okay, let me switch directions real quick because I know I've been talking to you forever. You're one of the best conversationalists I've encountered. You seem to have a way to answer almost any weirdo question I throw at you.
Well, you framed it around the things that I've thought about the most, so you've made it very easy on me.
I hope so. I'm not trying to. Again, this isn't gotcha journalism. I want to do the exact opposite of that if possible, and not even really. I'm not even trying to be informative here. Like, and again, like I said earlier, I'm not trying to. This isn't a podcast where you like put this on. You're exercising. You're driving to work or something. You know, like put this on to hear people. You want to go to sleep. You hear people talking.
Podcast.
Yeah, draw while you listen to something and do that. Like, this is to hear people have conversations and not fight with each other and not try to be sensationalists. Maybe that's a dumb idea because I know everybody loves things being that way.
I don't know that everybody does.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's not everybody because I don't. So
lots of audiences don't know what they want.
You think so?
And that's why they're willing to settle.
Okay, explain. Color, add, say more.
Well, okay. So if you ask somebody like, what do they want out of their website design? Most people are not going to have the language to even describe what their website is supposed to be. You can ask them what they want a website for, though. And then as a designer, you break that down and turn it into a hopefully a good website that will do the thing that they want. And I don't think that most people turn on TV with an understanding of what they're even looking for, let alone like the knowledge to figure out which stuff is going to be the best stuff for them. And so when they encounter something they really like, they don't necessarily know why they like it. And they might try their darndest to say why, but if they're not highly trained, this sounds really like egotistical, but like, I don't know, you guys, are you trained in design? There's like a lot of stuff that goes into a piece of media, and you probably don't know why it is that the thing is what you like. So I think it's important to try and make great stuff and not just make the same stuff that already exists, because people who like the stuff that already exists could very likely like something different and they'd have no idea.
That makes a lot of sense, and it's true. It would be no different than like we use a computer. I don't know every single step that goes into
right.
putting that
when I
together,
error
but it's
report,
not easy.
When I talk to my programmer friends, I don't say, hey, can you code it like this? I say, hey, it does this thing, and I wish it did this. And then they're like, oh yeah, like I'll go fix that. Or they're like, that's actually impossible and you can't have that. But yeah.
Exactly that kind of thing. So yeah, I could see that. Well, I'm hoping that that's the case. Speaking of things that we didn't know we wanted, tell me about the Blep book.
So the Blep book happened because as the stream has grown, the redeems also grew. I don't know if everybody viewing this, listening to this podcast, is going to know what redeems are. Basically, when you're on Twitch, you gather a certain number of fake points per hour of watching a specific stream, and those points are good on that stream. And it's kind of like a soft contract between you and the performer that they will make something happen that they have previously established when you pay them some of these fake coins. And my redeems, I think it's very fun to let people ask for silly doodles all over my work, because I'm a digital artist, and it's really just no skin off my nose if we draw all over and put mustaches on everybody. Like, I can just hide that layer, no big deal. But as the stream got larger, the number of points being generated per hour has expanded enormously, and I was spending more and more time doing silly stuff, and I could not get pages done. And so I was like, what can I do that would like sink these points? We need like a really big redeem that everybody works on together that will get these points out of the system, so I'm not drawing fire butts for the rest of my life. And the answer came one day when Jack the Magician was like, how many points do I have to pay you for you to permanently put a blep, which is a little in the book? And I was like, there's not a redeem for that, because that would be too big of a design decision. That could really throw off a panel. Like, I can't put that in chat's hands. I know you guys. And then I was like, but wait, we could put it in a different book. And so the Blep book was born, and I made my chat gather 2 million what we now call Blep coin to produce the Blep book. And to be fair, I haven't put it up on Amazon yet, and that is my bad. But we went through the entirety of book 1, and we put bleps on everybody. Every person in the comic has a blep, and also a lot of things. I tried to put at least one blep in every panel, and the cover, and that will be my second book, I guess.
Jeez, you're completely legendary. That is legendary. You know who else is legendary? Jack. I mean, I swear.
Oh my God, he is.
You know how many of my redeems are Jack inspired as well? And he's been on this podcast. He's one of the few streamers, because he's a magician, and he's done a bunch of other crazy jobs. Yeah.
You guys, what make a link happen to Jack's interviews here.
We'll put it here. Make sure that
He's
we.
so good, you guys. He's so interesting.
He's also my longest interview.
I believe it. He can
And
just keep going. He can mention anything, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that reminds me of the time in college when I made a holographic sticker for like a skateboard legend." And you're like, "What? What are you talking about?"
well, and yeah, he's a man with stories. He's a man with stories.
Yes.
So I should have known that this was going to be Jack connected somewhere along the way. He's InfoZar on Twitch, by the way, and InfoXZar. Everybody, if you're following and you happen to be on Twitch, please go follow him.
Live Magic, so amazing.
Yeah, Live Magic on Twitch. He was like one of the very first to do that. He's awesome. Okay, that's so cool. I'm gonna ask you one more question if you don't mind. I know we're already like at the full limit of what this normally goes to, but
whatever you like. I'm not in a rush.
You're not in a rush? Okay, cool. Well, because this is a problem when I get you on the stream is that I feel like we can talk for a long time.
You have until 2. Whatever you like.
I have until 2. Well, like I say, I don't want to bother people either too much when they're listening. So I'm trying to
Also
be mindful. Like, yes, Jax is my longest stream and it is 4 hours. So I'm like, I should aim for an hour and a half. I think people don't want to sit here and listen to some of my podcasts are still approaching 2 hours, to be fair. The one I did with Taylor Perez, the comedian.
It happens.
We make a lot of jokes, so it kind of happened, you know. Okay.
All right.
I'll ask you this question. If more things come of it, we will talk more, but I won't keep you forever. This is just basically a story I'm asking for. I'm asking for a story, and I've been asking people a version of this. And it's, what is the best mistake you've made in your life? Meaning, and how did that lead to something better? Which I think you understand that question. I always overqualify these questions by being like, okay, and this is what I mean by that. You get it. You know, what was a mistake that happened? Something crazy that went down that in the time you were going, man, this sucks. I'm stupid. You know, I should have never done this. And then it was like, no, actually, silver lining, best situation. It led to something better. And how did that happen? I just said I wouldn't explain the question. And
it was good that you did, because I'm drawing a blank on that one.
Yeah, well, if you have
I'm just such a perfect person. I don't know.
That is true. Mistakes. I mean, you are a stone pedestal statue.
That's me.
It happened.
Just flawless skin, flawless action.
We're 100% lucky about that.
Of the time.
Well, that's why you're here. That's why you're here. We're all perfect, and we've never done anything wrong. And mistakes never happened. I mean, look, if you don't have an answer for it, it's not an issue. We can also talk about something else. Wow.
Yeah, I don't think I have a good answer, but I'll keep it in the back burner in case something.
While cooking on that, I will ask you about moonshine.
Oh boy, that's the one that I have the least information about. I tacked it on because it's a snappy word, but here's the deal. There's like 2 scenes where there's a doctor and he cooks up moonshine because he's got doctor's equipment to do it. And I learned how that would happen and decided what that should look like, and then learned just enough about wine to make a nice thematically relevant monologue. I did learn about it. I don't have a lot to say.
This is one of those things, like, that is a writer's prerogative too, like how far you're gonna go on a particular thing. You're like, look,
this is far enough.
This is in it. We went just far enough to get the scene done. That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
I was just thinking the other day, I better replace this before somebody asks me about that one, because I like
oh, too late.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And we finally it was gotcha journalism this whole time.
Now I guess
interview over. Click.
There's a thing in the script that is a reference to a real thing. So I guess I'll say that.
Sure.
Which is that there was a guy who got sent to prison because he was counterfeiting really old fancy wine. He was just really good at making like bottles, like aged bottles. So he'd get cheap ass wine and he'd age the bottle up and make a fancy old timey label, and then he'd sell them for like thousands and thousands of dollars to rich people, and they couldn't tell the difference because most people can't, because it's wine and most people are sommeliers. And and they send him to prison. So this monologue is just a rant about something that literally happened. Most of the time I don't include things. In fact, that might be the only like real thing that's in the script. I just stole this. Just whole cloth. Like this man went to prison for this. And now we're ranting about how people don't have taste. And he probably should be punished for that. Like, did he lie or did he just give them the bottle of wine that they wanted?
I think that's a funny thing because now it is technically true crime, right? It's a crime that happened for real.
That kind of true crime is fun. I like that. Give me wine salesman crimes.
Don't we love those ones when it's a counterfeiter who's good? Though
Yeah.
that's like being almost like a great bank robber, cat burglar too. That's kind of sexy. Like,
yeah, stories about con men are really fun.
Yeah, well, like I mean, there's that one where this dude made all of these. He was the guy who found all the ancient paintings that Leonardo da Vinci didn't,
right?
But he was just a great artist and used all of the old materials and made it. And he's like, he got caught one day because one of his paintings he used regular, just white paint that came out of the tube, which normally he'd have to like smash up some seashells or something.
Yeah, you can't use that titanium. Oh no.
He did because he was lazy. He's like, I was lazy that day and I just wanted to finish. And he'd already sold millions and millions of dollars worth of these paintings for like 20 straight years and never got caught. So he got lazy once. And when they ran it through, they're like, hey, wait a minute, this is new paint. Hey, maybe we should look at all these other paintings he did. And then it's like, hey, you have to go to jail.
Yeah.
So he's like, meh. But you kind of love him anyway because he sold all these.
Because he's so good at what he does. It's hard not to respect that. And also, the people that he's ripping off are the people who are probably engaged in art fraud anyway.
Most likely.
Because that whole thing is a freaking racket.
It's crazy, right? Like, and apparently it's like a whole money laundering scheme a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay.
Which is exactly what this. Like, when people were like, you should do NFTs, like, the high-class art scene was the first thing I thought of. I was like, wait, this sounds like that, though. And they're like, no, it's a way for you to make money. I'm like, how does that get me a market that wasn't there already? Like, they're like, no, it's a brand new market. I'm like, no, these people existed already. They weren't buying my art before. Why would they buy it now? Do they need a better receipt? Like, what? I don't know what you're talking about.
I guess. They just want a better receipt. Stuff. Well, I thought about making an NFT out of a couple of the panels that I did in my comic book. Never did it. I probably should have because I guess I would have made money.
Wouldn't have.
I like the idea. I didn't know anything about that stuff before, but over time I was like, hey, did you know that art is really just a whole thing? And I was like, oh, okay. So that's the idea. But I guess it never interested me enough to want to do it.
If you didn't already have a market, then you didn't have somebody to sell an NFT to. It doesn't make that happen.
No.
Mostly what they wanted was for artists to buy into their system so that their coins would be worth something, because you have to buy the coin to mint the NFT. So yeah, artists were the product, and I think that's really pretty shitty.
Yeah, it's pretty shitty. Well, what are you gonna do?
Not buy it. Yeah, I did it.
I think the bubble burst anyway, right? Then I don't know if that's going to happen again.
People caught on, and Dan Olson made that incredible documentary. Just in case.
I didn't see it.
Oh my God, that's a tombstone on the top of the grave. Yeah, look up Dan Olson's Line Goes Up.
Line Goes Up. Okay.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I'll have to check it out. I'll have to check it out and see what happened. I'm wary of documentaries these days a little bit because I feel like a lot of documentaries are movies and we call them documentaries.
Oh, this is a YouTube video that I'm calling a documentary because it's risen above.
It's risen from the ashes. Okay, cool.
It has risen from the ashes of YouTube. This man, Dan Olson, is a longtime YouTuber, and he started out making videos about media analysis. And then 2020 hit, and it like reframed his world, it seems. I'm putting like words in his mouth. I haven't heard him say this, but it seems like 2020 broke him, and he was like, maybe I should use my like journalistic abilities and film things to look into other things. And he shifted over, and he's been putting out these incredible, really dense documentaries about stuff that he's interested in.
Okay, very cool. I realize I skipped anxiety in this list of things. Is the only one I didn't. Well, there's also and more. I
Yes.
didn't do and more. I wonder
We
what the
touched
more.
on anxiety when we touched on
I think
conspiracies,
we talked about it
but we
enough.
didn't. We didn't. Yeah, we can save it for next time.
And I don't want to give you more anxiety or have to talk about anxiety right this minute. We talked about the Blip book. We did
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah.
We did a lot, and I think we've hit it. Is there, first of all, people who want to follow, see you places? I know there's Twitch. Your Face is Pretty. You have
Yep,
yourfacespretty.com, right?
yep, yep.
So
My
that's
my
the other
website is
spot.
a very solid part. They can't ban me from my own website. I own that. You can
Wonderful.
always find me there.
Well, watch this. Like, our next podcast is going to be how you got banned from your website because
GoDaddy.
you're not
GoDaddy's
born
gonna
yet.
be like,
She's a fetus.
I'm sorry, we don't sell websites to. No, GoDaddy would not. GoDaddy would be like, I hear that you're just a fetus. Do you know any other fetuses who would like to buy websites from us? Would you like to buy 10 more sites from us, fetus? We hear you're young and impressionable.
Okay. I was like, is she done or is it?
I'm done.
Okay.
GoDaddy.
GoDaddy. That's funny. That's been around forever.
Yes.
What a name.
It's true. I hadn't thought about that.
This
Yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, it's good, but yeah, I don't know. It's got a
I'm not
vibe.
sure I'd call anything about GoDaddy good. It's just where I bought my website many years ago.
They were like the cheapest one, I think, at the time. They were ones who had like really low prices for getting your URLs. So
yeah,
it's good stuff. I appreciate that. But yeah, GoDaddy now sounds like one of those bad nudity arts.
It does. It really does. I just said it so many times I didn't realize how weird a name it was.
Yeah, well, because you were saying it so much, I was like, yeah, I'm so used to this because I've heard it since the beginning of internet. But hey, maybe we reassess. But we can't put things on a pedestal. That's the first thing. Let's see if I can get this back on track. We can't put things on a pedestal because they become stone. We've learned that that's the case. GoDaddy includes GoDaddy. They're within the pantheon of stone.
If any of you are super fans of GoDaddy, make sure you assess why you're a super fan of GoDaddy. Like, what are you really getting out of this fandom that you are participating in?
Okay. I can't end it like this.
You can't.
This is not the end of a podcast. I'm trying to find an ending point. I'm honestly trying to find an end, but I'm like, that wasn't good. I mean, maybe you can help me out. Where is there anything on your mind? Any last thing you'd like to say?
Oh man.
I mean, at all, that gives us a window into your soul or psyche at the moment.
Gosh, I want to make this freaking book happen, you guys, and you can help me make this freaking book happen. I really care about it. It's got a lot of dorky, freaking deep thought philosophy in it, secretly underneath the layer of serial killers and stuff. And if you want to help me do that, and you want to see me in places where they don't ban me for being 10, because I'm a 10-year-old. I'm a cute little 10-year-old. You should follow me on the social medias. I'm Your Face is Pretty. Also, yourfacesprety.com. That one they can't ban me on. My name is Kathryn Sullivan. My book is called We Are No One.
It is on Amazon, the first volume.
And it's on Amazon.
On Amazon, that's the best place to support you. Is there other areas to support? Or, I mean, obviously, and Twitch as well, if you subscribe and stuff, right?
It does give money to Amazon, who will ban you for being under 13, though.
That's right. You will be 10 years old.
And they won't give you a book like Amazon will, who is also Twitch, which is also weird.
But all joking aside, artwork is phenomenal.
Thank you.
The tone is phenomenal. Just looking at, each panel, to me, that's why they take time. That's why you can watch you drawing them. That I think the reason they take time, I'm putting words in your mouth right now, but it is what it is to my eyes, that all of them have a sense of tone. I feel like before most of the time I don't even get to see a lot of the words or anything. It's mostly the illustrations, but I'm like, okay, I'm being told the story through the illustration, which that sounds like is what it should be in a graphic novel, but it's not always that way. So the fact that you're able to do it means a lot to me. I really like what you're doing, and I think people should buy as many copies of this book as possible, and as soon as you get the blep version up, buy that too. Just
We gotta get the blep book.
that's yeah, that's got to happen because obviously, because Jack, if Jack said it, it has to come.
Jack
into
said
being.
it. Yeah.
So yeah, please help. I don't know. Please help this continue. I want art to continue. I don't want artists to lose hope or faith. It happens sometimes. You know, you don't seem to be that kind of person. Being that you've kept this going, you're on volume
I'm
3.
deeply obsessive. I can't help it.
All right. Well,
I won't quit, y'all. But if you want to help, here I am.
never quit, never give up, never surrender, and
That's
please
right.
buy.
Tim Allen says.
Tim Allen said that in a movie. Alan Rickman was in. I actually watched it recently. That's why I said it.
That's so good.
I throw it on from time to time. Galaxy Quest is what we're talking about right now, guys. For anybody who's listening to this, and it's good. It has Tim Allen, which you're like, hey, wait, what are you talking about? Tim Allen? People,
no, he's perfectly cast.
It's fantastic. Sigourney Weaver. Oops,
so
what's going on there? Alan Rickman. Like, what's happening here? Like, he's like, that's a Tim Allen movie, but what's happening here? Tony Shalhoub, I think, is there.
Yeah,
Sam Rockwell. Sam Rockwell is there. It's really good. Kind of a spoof on a Star Trek thing. Really cool story. I'm not going to tell you what it is because it's more fun to watch it.
Yeah.
Feel free to watch it.
Huge twist. This whole podcast was an advertisement for Galaxy Quest.
That's right. So that's it. Our sponsors today are Galaxy Quest, a movie from 30 years ago. That they're like, we got to get our numbers up on Netflix or wherever it's
Raid
playing.
Shadow Legends was busy. We had to contact Galaxy Quest.
Here's the thing. I don't think I'm gonna have sponsors like Raid Shadow Legends.
I wouldn't expect you to.
Because I don't play them, right? I don't play video games really, so almost ever. I haven't played much in the way of video games. So it would be weird to be like, hey guys, games? I don't. Buy Raid Shadow Legends, I've heard it's fun. People say it's great. They paid me money to tell you that they have a new thing. Maybe. I would love someone to pay me money, and even more so, I want people to pay you money for having your comic book. And it's okay to pay Kathryn money.
It's okay. Yeah. I'm above age. I can make money without it being illegal.
Not 12 years old, everybody. I called you. Really, that's what we needed to establish first thing out of the gate on this podcast is you are not a 12-year-old.
I think that's probably pretty clear.
Yeah, it's become clear enough. Yeah, we don't know. So we still haven't seen your birth certificate. So I'm sure now conspiracy theories are going to come about.
Conspiracy theories abound about my age.
Your face is pretty, and there's going to be a green line and a white line, and we're going to be connecting you to all kinds of dots.
Oh gosh, where's the money going? Yeah, follow the money.
Where's the money going? Okay, it goes to We Are No One, smash hit #1 on Amazon.
It's Amazon.
Yeah, they did it. Okay, this is getting dumb. I'm being stupid now. Right? This is what happens to me. That you're like, look, spend any time, you're going to find out that I'm going to be dumb sometimes.
You'll find the button in it. It's fine. We said silly things.
No, I love it. This isn't look, this is what I'm saying. It's meant to be a fun conversation. It's always meant to be a fun conversation, even if we're talking about death and darkness and serial killers sometimes.
Oh, especially then, yeah.
We cycle back. Always we cycle back to, something that's positive. I at least try to. So, okay, Kathryn, you're legendary, first of all.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Means the world to me. Again, I love what you do, love your stream, and love the artwork that you're creating, and just your willingness to come and speak on practically, any topic and have something that's intelligent to say about it means the world. So, thank you.
Thank you.